but you left the Corbyn project in the early years over the economic direction they took. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed that some involved pushed a more traditional tax and spend program of increasing tax to invest and using narratives that you described as neoliberal, in which it was a sort of progressive economic orthodox. Now, John McDonnell very much wanted to be seen as a respectable statesman and pushed the idea that Labour were fiscally responsible through redistributive policies and ditched the original plan that was dubbed the People's QE, a project in which the government can indeed pay for anything that's needed. So, because you also said that the left didn't grasp those, the almost the MMT aspect of it. So going forward for the left, do we need to argue for a more radical approach to spending rather than using to be honest, a pretty easy to understand and popular policy of redistribution, something McDonnell thought is a much easier sell to the public?
MMT is actually what happens in the world. Modern monetary theory simply describes what actually happens when governments spend money. The government, when it spends money, creates new money at the Bank of England on overdraft, in effect, and spends it. It does not go and check, is there money in the bank account before we can spend it? There isn't ever a day when the government says, oh, sorry, can't pay the pensions because we haven't got any money in the bank today. It can always run an overdraft. Because it owns its own bank. Nobody else is in that situation, in that unique situation of A, declaring that the currency it creates is legal, and B, having a bank that can issue it. It's totally unique. And so, but not unique to the UK, obviously a characteristic shared by quite a number of countries. And we can therefore create money. And so the government can't run out of money either. So it is also the ultimate place for people to save with. We don't have a national debt. We just have a very effective national savings system. Let's be blunt about this. I mean, one of the many narratives that has been used wholly destructively is this idea of national debt. No, actually, the whole point about the national debt is it's an amazing place for people to save their money because it is the government who can always repay, and nobody else has that characteristic anywhere. Every bank can fail, but the government can't. So that's why people want to save that. And we should be using that power of the government to create money and also to be the depositor, the place of safety for people to save, as a combined power to reallocate the power of the economy itself. And my own thinking's moved on here. I mean, in 2014-15, Andrew Fisher, who actually wrote Jeremy Corbyn's basically his manifesto to become leader of the Labour Party, used a lot of my material for Jeremy as the basis of his economic appeal. And I know full well that it was very popular with audiences to whom Jeremy spoke during the course of the campaign to become leader of the Labour Party. I know there are some academics who say, look, he became leader because of me, because I gave him a narrative, an economic narrative, which was so distinct and so different, from which people said, hey, look, this is so unlike what was being offered by Yvette Cooper and others at the time, which sounded like pure neoliberalism and hardcore austerity to continue. The moment he got into office, and John was very little around during the course of that campaign, by the way, when he was on holiday for much of it, in fact. When he got into office, John was sat upon by very conventional Labour MPs who became members of his shadow treasury team and told, you must say you won't borrow, you must accept the limits on spending, you must sign up to the fiscal charter that George Osborne has prepared as an elephant trap for you. And John told me within days of the victory that he was going to do that at the Labour Party conference in September 2015. And I said, well, that's fine. You've offered me the job as your chief economic advisor and I don't want it. Because I can't work on that basis. There is no credit card to max out and all the other phrases that he used as a Labour chancellor quite irresponsibly. He really became quite orthodox in his thinking. I remember once telling Polly Toynbee, the trouble with John McDonnell is he's so right-wing. Now, that did not make me some mad left-winger. It just put John McDonnell fair and square in the middle of neoliberalism. And bluntly, that's where he was. And he'll hate me for saying it. And he hasn't spoken to me for a long time. And we used to know each other well. But I'm afraid that's what he became the moment power came his way. It was deeply disappointing.